Yo, what is up, guys? Shinobi here, back again with another video for you guys, and today we got another reaction. Today we're taking a look at Give. I can't say his full name. I don't know. My brain's fried right now. I'm still trying to. It's been a long day, but either way, I'll leave his link down below if you want to check this out. But either way, we got a video here asking, is Bleach Rebirth Souls gonna be a good game? Me personally, I'm just gonna state my opinion outright based on what we've seen so far, based on the mechanics we got, from Guilty Gear, from Smash Ultimate, and from games like Tekken with the 8-way movement. Plus everything else, that's been revealed, like obviously the fact that we got the training mode already released and everything like that, so you can kind of see your combos and how much damage they do, like you would in any other fighting game that especially has come out recently. I think the game is going to do fine. We got a long story mode, we got a pretty good secret story mode, we got the mission mode. We got a lot of content. We got a lot of content. The game is going to do fine in my opinion. I know I had a debate literally a couple nights ago, talking to somebody who was really big on Dragon Ball and was thinking that Bleach wasn't going to do too well. I think it's doing fine, you know. But other than that, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this video. Make sure to be respectful if you guys do see his video or anything like that. No beef, no none of that. But let's go ahead and see what he got to say.
I know it's been a while since I've been on any Bleach Rebirth of Souls related stuff. I'm kind of at the point where I'm just waiting for the game to come out, but we move.
That's kind of where everybody's at right now.
Right? Now, I imagine a lot of you guys have been seeing a bunch of videos with titles like Bleach Rebirth of Souls is going to change arena fighters forever and it's going to be amazing and you're going to get laid after playing this game.
I'm gonna be real, a lot of those titles are clickbait. I had somebody in my comments literally talking about how there's a lot of people just glazing Bleach Rebirth of Souls and everything like that, and I'm gonna be real, let's not act like people weren't doing that for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero 2. Hell, I was doing it because I wanted to get some hype up for the game. Let's be real. A lot of that is clickbait. People were talking about how Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was going to feed families, and while it did do really well, I'm not even going to debate that. It wasn't out there feeding families like that. Let's be real for ourselves.
Game and have a harem of 30 bitches. Okay, we get it. But are these guys actually spitting? Or are we just hyping up another anime arena fighter that's going to be fun for a week and then die out?
Well, here's my argument when it comes to that. First of all, the game's not even an arena fighter. It is a 3D fighter. I don't know why people keep calling it an arena fighter at this point when clearly it's not. But I digress. And I think this game is going to do fine just due to the fact that, not saying Sparking Zero is bad in this category, but I feel like with Bleach, with every character being balanced and every character also having a unique moveset, the game will last longer due to the variety of characters, the variety of movesets, and the fact that because you have all that, it's going to get people curious and wanting to try out all the characters versus in Sparking Zero where the game is unbalanced. And in ranked, unfortunately, because the game is unbalanced, people are only going to try and choose the top 10 to 20 characters in that game to try and win because everybody wants to win. There's a few people out in there that will go out there and only play their favorite character regardless if they're powerful or not. I'm one of them. I play Trunks. But unfortunately, the mass majority only play the top 10 to 20 characters, which is kind of a waste in my opinion because Sparking Zero has over 100 characters. So that's what I just got to say about it, but I digress. I will let him continue.
Or is Bleach Rebirth of Souls really a turning point for anime fighting games? Let's find out. Now, I have a formula of what makes a good game a good game. First, you look at the key 4 areas. Obviously, the first and foremost is the gameplay, but what else? 2 is visual design, so art style, stage design, level design, etc. But there also needs to be good sounds. I'm mostly thinking OSTs here for this game, but finally, the game modes, which can offer a different flavor to your game and keep it fresh over a long period of time. These are the areas to look into for the most part. By rating each of these areas out of 10, I can decide pretty easily whether a game is good or not, even if the game hasn't even been released. There is plenty of demo footage to go by, character trailers, breakdowns that other YouTubers have made. There's a bunch of content to analyze. You can also look at other games in a game's genre and see how it stacks up compared to those. In this video, I'm probably going to be making a lot of comparisons to things like Storm Connections and Sparking Zero.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably going to be very comparable to Bleach Rebirth of Souls. But enough yapping, let's actually get into this. The gameplay. Bleach Rebirth of Souls seems to have hit a sweet spot in its gameplay, where at face value, it seems as though it's very basic and simple, so it's pretty easy for a new player to just boot up the game and play without having to worry about overcomplicated mechanics or high execution moves and stuff. However, there's certain mechanics in the game that seem to add a layer of depth, which when players figure out how to use them correctly and efficiently, will really set themselves apart from just your average Joe.
Yeah, no, he ain't wrong there. He ain't wrong there. And I honestly, as far as game mechanics go, I think both Sparking Zero and Bleach to a degree are kind of equal in this portion because Sparking Zero, you gotta learn how to do your, you gotta know how to do your revenge counters. You gotta know how to do your vanishes correctly. You gotta know how to. Well, that's all more timing than anything, but you still gotta learn how to practice that kind of thing because there's inputs for that kind of thing. You gotta know how to do your sonic sway, and then obviously you have the low sweeps, the high sweeps, and also knowing when to go and launch a Kamehameha wave because you can't just spam that out because it's easily vanishable. So I think that's pretty good, but I give Bleach the slight edge to a degree because now we got cancel combos. Now we got cancel combos because they added in the system from Guilty Gear where you can cancel out your combo and go into another one. And if you've seen Guilty Gear gameplay, there are specific combos, especially with rushdown characters like Giovanna, that I play specifically, where you can cancel, go straight into an ultimate, and it's some crazy stuff. And Bleach has that mechanic in it, so you could do some pretty nuts things, especially if you get like a shield break or whatnot. Like, and then on top of that, we also have just in general the whole strategy with your 9 lives that you have. So there's gonna be a whole strategy built around what characters you're gonna use around that. And then on top of that, then you have the 8-way movement. Every character has a certain range that they can only go to. So there's also that you gotta worry about too. So Bleach has a lot of depth in it that on the surface might not look like it does, but once you start playing or if you even see the gameplay, yeah, trust me, it's there.
This was something that I really liked about Sparking Zero's gameplay design. In Bleach Rebirth of Souls, you can attack, guard, or use something called a breaker. Attack beats breaker, breaker beats guard, guard beats attack, very basic stuff. Your HP bar is called Reishi, and of course the goal is to deplete that bar, which will deplete your opponent's Kompaku, which is their actual lives. Think of it like how Smash Bros works, where you up the opponent's percentage until you kill them and they lose a stack. You can do more Kompaku damage with certain characters and certain transformations, so that has its own layer of depth. But where Bleach really starts to separate itself from other games is that every single character in this game has their own unique gap strong action and attack speed, meaning every character is its own separate entity.
Exactly, and I actually mentioned this once again in one of the debates when I came to talk about character variety or what was it, character diversity. Is while you have 100 or so characters in something like Sparking Zero for example. A lot of those characters, yeah, they all have some of them being unique movesets, but majority of the time you're not really using those unique movesets. And when you get into neutral, it's mostly the same thing. Versus with these characters in Bleach, a lot of the time when you get into neutral, it's going to play out differently every single time due to the fact that every single character has a different moveset. Every single one. You cannot name 2 characters that are alike outside of maybe White and Ichigo that we've seen so far, and maybe Ishin if they give him Getsuga Tensho, which considering this is Karakura Town arc, Ishin, he's going to have Getsuga Tensho, and it makes sense, he's Ichigo's dad. But it's like, outside of those 3, and once again, we haven't seen a Getsuga from White yet at this point, but you already know he's going to have it. It's like outside of those 3, every single character that we have released has had a different moveset, different abilities. Hell, even different Keycon moves. And don't get me started on the fact that everybody's got a different Bankai or Resurrection depending on if they're Soul Reaper or Espada. And technically, even the Fullbringers like Chad, if they put Orihime in the game, then she's going to have something different too. And then don't get me started on 1,000 Year Blood War DLC once they start adding that and we start getting Quincy's. It's just, it just gets better from there. So one thing I will give to Bleach Rebirth of Souls is that specifically your neutral game is going to change a lot depending on who you're fighting because every character is different. So learning your character and then learning how your opponent's going to play is going to be a lot more crucial in this game, I would feel, than in something like Sparking Zero. Because while you can kind of see what your opponent's going for in Sparking Zero, 9 times out of 10, the neutral will remain the same for a lot of the characters. It's not going to change a lot from character to character unless you're talking heavies. So I will have to say that that definitely makes Bleach stand out.
Despite playing by the same simple mechanics. What other anime fighters tend to do is have like a few character archetypes and just throw multiple characters into that archetype, so there's like some separation, but like not really. For example, there will be like a power archetype, and everyone that's in that archetype will be like a big guy with the power archetype animations, and they'll probably be a bit bulkier than other characters, and they will all play very similar. And then there will be the speed archetype, which will be a bit frailer, and they will have all the speed archetype animations. You get where I'm going with this. Bleach Rebirth of Souls seems to have deviated somewhat from this and gone for like a more traditional fighting game approach to characters, so it seems. There's also a mechanic called reverse actions, which is universal to all characters and is split into 3 different actions. It also has its own bar that you need to build up, and some of the bar is spent when you use one of these actions. Chain reverse is essentially a combo extender. Burst reverse will negate an opponent's attack and blow them away, so an easy pressure reliever. Soul reverse will slowly restore your reishi and enhance your step, which will make it easier to evade attacks whilst healing. As you can see, each of these actions will work better with certain characters, and it's up to you as the player to decide how you want to manage your reverse gauge and how best it will benefit you and the character you're playing as.
Yeah, so like for instance, a character like Yorichi would probably be using more of the combo version of that gauge or the reverse gauge because she's a fast, really high combo character, kind of like Giovanna. Like her, if you want to take a character that's really high focus on pressure, a character like Giovanna from Guilty Gear is going to be doing the exact same thing. She's not going to want to play defensive. Her main thing is to keep your opponent in a corner and unable to do a lot. Keep them guessing, make them slip up. Or a character like, let's take, I don't know, Uryu, who's more long distance, would probably want to go ahead and use a move with the reverse gauge where he'd break himself out of a combo because he's more of a long range user. And then there's other characters who would probably are more life focused, so you want to keep your keycon meter up. So there's a lot of depth when it comes to this game when you really go into it. It really is.
Characters also have transformation when they fully fill up their fighting spirit gauge, which will alter your character's stats and certain special actions that they can perform. But that's pretty standard anime shit, right? Every character also has their own signature moves, which set them apart from one another, that don't require any gauge to use. On top of this, there is spiritual pressure moves, which will also be unique to each character, but do consume gauge. This all sounds like a lot of things, but in summary, your character has their own stats, their own attack speeds and ranges that they can attack at as well, signature moves and spiritual pressure moves, and awakening, which is the name for transforming. You can also sidestep and counter as defensive tools, and with reverse gauge you can extend combos, negate attacks and heal. In my opinion, this seems like a very cool and pretty unique system with a good amount of depth while still being very straightforward despite all the long names of things like Kompaku and Reishi.
And I also want to add in the fact that there are clashes in this game too as well. We have seen it a couple of times with some of the gameplay where if you both swing your swords at the same time or whatever it may be, there are some clashes. Now I don't know about long range characters, but for sword characters specifically, we have seen clashes happen before.
In my opinion, the gameplay systems are a strong 8 out of 10. This seems like a better system than both Storm Connections and Sparking Zero. It doesn't seem to be favoring either offense or defense, it just seems like both are very strong. Now, visual design. This game's aesthetic is pretty much your average anime arena fighter kind of thing, I don't know if this style has like a name, but like 3D, but still looks like drawings and don't look realistic like Jump Force aesthetic, And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because this shit clearly gets people to buy the game. I personally still think it looks good. The hit effects and swing effects.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, at least we got 3D models for our story mode, bruh. Because JJJ Curse Clash got screenshots. That's all I'm gonna say.
In this game all look great as well. The animations all look very smooth. I will say that playing neutral in this game looks slightly clunky. However, that might be more of a gameplay issue than like an animation issue, you know. I think we've seen a total of 3 stages in this game so far. Actually, off the top of my head, I can remember the Grimjow fighting place was also a stage. Now I'm really thinking about it. Honestly, all the stages look fantastic. They managed to stay true to like that gloomy but still bright lighting thing that they had going on in the anime, which I think is pretty nice. They did that especially well on the Hueco Mundo map, if you ask me. It also seems on certain maps there's some sort of destructible environment, which is always a good immersive feature to have. The main menu looks good, the character select screen also looks good.
And also, when it comes to the stages, if anybody watched that one Byakuya versus Ichigo fight, it was when one of the first demos that they actually put out. There are stage transitions. Now, I'm not sure if everyone will have a stage transition, but I remember specifically the Karakura fight. There was an area where Byakuya ends up hitting Ichigo with a Keycon move, and it transfers into a stage transition.
Of course, this is a limited version that is currently on the screen, but as of now, looks very clean. One downside in this area that I will forever harp on about in this game is the UI. This shit is way too big. There's too much on the screen for gauges to be this big, fam. Now I will say that if there is a setting to change this when we actually get to play the game, I will shut the fuck up. For me, the visual design is about as solid as they come. 7 out of 10. This would have been higher, but really I am not a fan of like big text flying onto my screen every so often. So let's leave that in the drafts. Also, the UI deducted a point or two. Moving on, the soundtrack. Hey, I see you there. I see you there.
Man,
You've been watching the video for a long
that soundtrack about to be heat, bro. Especially if they start throwing in some those OG Bleach themes into there, bro. Oh my gosh, I mean nuts.
time now. So I'm expecting that you like the video. So give me a quick like, quick sub. It don't hurt you, man. Come on. Alright, back to the video. The OSTs sound pretty decent, I guess. Pretty run-of-the-mill stuff if I'm being entirely honest, but that one track where I think it was Gin, when Gin goes Bankai, that shit was a fucking banger. This is like a hard thing to judge at the moment because of like the kind of lack of content of different stages, so we can't actually listen to everything right now. So as of now, 6 out of 10. It's very average, but that one Gin track was a banger, so +1. Now,
Hey, I don't know about you, but Yorichi's track when she goes into Shuko is freaking fire.
game modes. Game modes in fighting games in like the last few years have really been dying out. I'm not really sure why this has become a thing, because like offline game modes are generally the things that keep casual players invested in your game, like when online ranked or whatever becomes a little stale. I remember back in the day, Tekken for example had things like Tekken Force, which felt like a completely different game to the actual 3D fighter that it is. That actually was like super addictive. But yeah, as of now, Bleach Rebirth of Souls has an offline mode, which is for you and your friends to play all snuggled up together on your couch. There's also online mode, which I imagine most people will be playing. Not much info has been given on this particular mode, because just saying online sounds like casual games that just so happen to be online. Like there can still be other modes in online mode, if you know what I mean. Like an online ranked mode hasn't been announced, but I'm pretty sure, considering the devs said that this is supposed to be a competitive game, that they would have some type of competitive mode. There's also
You know what's funny about this is, once again, we had that debate, with when it was like a Dragon Ball Sparking Zero fan, and one of his arguments was that this game probably won't come with an online mode or a ranked mode. My bad. Um, and we were asking him about it, and he didn't even know himself because, well, it hadn't been announced yet. That was kind of like his argument. But here's my thing with that: with every game we've gotten so far, especially anime games, I'm pretty sure Naruto Ninja Storm is the only one, to my knowledge, that has ever announced an online ranked, because there's like a really big portion of the game. And even then, they kind of cooked that because when you got the game, when Connections came out, unfortunately, it didn't even come with the feature to, connect with your friends at launch. They had to put that in later. And then for Sparking Zero, they didn't even announce it. It was just assumed that it would have the online mode. And basically, what I'm saying here is it's not a pattern for these kind of games, especially games that are more fighting based centric, like Tekken, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear. It's not really common for these games to come without an online mode. Considering this game is based off of Tekken, Smash Ultimate, and Guilty Gear, you got the 8-way movement and all that. It's like, why wouldn't this game have an online mode that has a ranked mode for that matter? Like, it just, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. Now, once again, I can't really say much because the game ain't out yet. But me personally, I think this game's gonna have an online mode. It would make sense. It wouldn't make sense to not have an online mode.
Other things that I've been hearing other content creators throwing around, like team battle and things of that nature, of course none of these things are confirmed. So as of now, I'm going to assume that there is some type of rank mode, because I think it's super unrealistic to believe that they don't have one, right? How that rank system will work is something I can't really take into consideration because we haven't seen anything to do with it. So I'll just take it as game has ranked when scoring this particular section. Anyways, the game has online and offline modes. There is also a story mode that we all know will take place between the start of Bleach all the way up into when Ichigo cheeses the fuck out of Aizen, which is pretty extensive, so I imagine there's going to be a whole bunch of content attached to this. Now, we actually did our first 15 minutes of story mode reaction a couple of weeks back, so we actually do know what story mode will look like, at least somewhat, and from what I saw, it's 90% cutscenes. Of course, it's very reasonable to think that the rest of the game won't be like this, but I have to go off what I can see with my own peepers. I am someone who doesn't mind cutscenes, as long as the story is good, and I at least have the option to skip them, because even in a good story, there is a lot of filler dialogue that I don't really care about, right? The reason why the cutscenes are a bad thing in this particular game is that a lot of us have already played other Bleach games that have a story mode that follows the anime. I think it's bad when DBZ constantly spams the same story in their games. I think it's pretty cringe here too. Also add to the fact that a lot of people more than likely rewatched Bleach recently because of the anime's return with Thousand Year Blood War, so the story is pretty damn fresh in players' minds. So just repeating that again doesn't sound incredibly fun to me, and I imagine a lot of people will feel the same about that. Although, I do want to add that story mode is split into two modes. The standard main story, where you of course follow Ichigo's journey and do everything from his perspective, and the secret story mode, which includes original stories for different characters in the game, which is like the main story, but I guess from their perspective, if you kind of get what I mean. Think of it like Sparking Zero's story, where you have all of these characters and you play from all of their perspectives. I don't know if these stories are completely original, like they're currently advertising things and are following like the what if formula in Sparking Zero, and I'm going to assume that they're just not, because it's good to expect nothing from a game made by Bandai Namco. There's also something called side episodes, which supposedly describe daily life of the characters between battles. This to me seems like an example of cringe marketing, because it's obviously part of the main story and they're advertising it as if it's its own separate mode.
Okay, so what I'm gonna give to the story mode in general is the story mode. The reason why they did it the way that they're doing it is because of the fact that they want people to, if for people who didn't experience Bleach through the anime, let's say that there's some people out there that didn't do it, then this is supposed to be like kind of their gateway to it. Though, in my opinion, I do agree with him where I think that they should watch the anime first. But if they haven't, then they do have this game to at least have a grasp on how the anime is, especially going, into Thousand Year Blood War afterwards or the Fullbring arc. So I will give them the fact that it is a little bit tiresome doing that, but it's there for a reason. As far as the secret story mode, I feel like that's where most of the most creative content is going to come out, because depending on your favorite characters and whatnot, you're going to get different perspectives. And, for me personally, the secret story mode for me, I'm going to be mostly looking at characters like Toshiro, Rangiku, then Yoriichi and whatnot. So I feel like for me, the secret story mode is going to be pretty alright. I'm going to do content on it, me personally. As for the side story mode, I feel like that's up to preference. Like, I feel like it's one of those things that, yeah, I think I agree with is kind of iffy. Like, why did they even bother putting that in? Me personally, I would say that's probably going more into the secret story mode. But then again, I can't really say much either because I haven't seen the side story mode. Like, I haven't seen any content for it. The only content that we have right now is the secret story mode that we just got with Soifon versus, Hisagi. So can't really go off of that. So, I think he's making some good points here. So, I'll let him cook. But as far as the main story mode, I get it. We all hate, going into these games, the story mode, whether it be Dragon Ball, Naruto, whatever, whatever. But I think Dragon Ball did it the best, at least based on what I've played, because this game ain't out yet. Naruto has done it the best, like Storm 3 and Storm 4 absolutely killed it. Storm Connections dropped the ball, unfortunately. Um, but we'll just have to see. I mean, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. That's one of those things where it's kind of a what if scenario. But it also depends on what you're trying to get into the game for too. Like if you're just trying to get into game, and do ranked, then you're probably not going to care about the story mode that much. But if you are just getting into it and you want to experience the full game, then that's when things kind of change up a bit. So it really also depends on what are you trying to buy the game for? What are you trying to get out of Bleach Rebirth of Souls? That's just like an individual thing.
Which is extremely cringe to me. I also don't think anyone really gives a fuck about seeing Rukia and Orihime making bad food or something. Now, no other modes have explicitly been announced. However, there is an extras portion of the game which seems to have its own little modes attached to it, including a training mode and a missions mode. However, there is one mode where it seems like you do fights in waves, and I guess the objective is to stay alive for as long as possible, like a survival mode. And there's different levels to this, which is pretty damn cool in my opinion. This kind of mode has always been super addictive to me, so I'll definitely be playing this. Now,
I feel like mission mode is going to be where the majority of the content outside of ranked is going to come from, and I'm glad they added it in, because I'm going to, me personally, try and see how long I can last with some of my favorite characters, and then I'm going to try out other characters too. That mission mode is going to be a huge portion outside of ranked that's going to just be able to switch it up a bit. Like you're going to have the story mode content obviously that people are going to do, and then you're going to have maybe some side story content that maybe a smaller side of the fan base will do, and then after that you're going to have the secret story as well. But the main portion of the game, in my opinion, based on what we've seen so far until we get any other news, is going to be my basic opinion, it's going to be mission mode, and it's going to be the online ranked. So that's just me. Until we get anything else, obviously 1,000 Year Blood War will be on the way, so we'll get more content with that as well. So
now, this, unlike a lot of other fighting games, doesn't seem to be slacking on modes, which is actually really nice to see. And just another thing that Bleach Rebirth of Souls seems to be doing better than other games out right now. As much as I ranked on the story mode, I'm sure that a lot of people who are new to Bleach will play this game, so it isn't like a complete bummer, right? The fact that this game also seems to have at least a few offline modes is also like a massive plus for me. Assuming that this game does have a rank mode on top of this, I think the modes are an 8 out of 10.
And another thing with the offline modes is that's basically what's going to carry the game. Hilariously, believe it or not, the offline modes are going to carry this game a lot more than the ranked ever will. The ranked is going to be fun for content, don't get me wrong. But once everything starts dying down, kind of like how Sparking Zero is right now, it's like the only thing that's going to keep you coming back to this game are going to be like your offline modes or whatnot. Like let's say you get burnt out of just doing a bunch of ranked and whatnot. The offline modes are going to be what saves it. And I'm glad that they have them. And we haven't even got everything announced yet. Now, I'm assuming as the days go on, especially tomorrow when it hits Monday and we get another character or whatever we get, it's like we're going to get more and more content released for the game as the game comes out. And I would bet that the game probably is, or the people behind the game like Bandai and Samsoft, I wouldn't put it past them to hide some of the stuff in the game just so they don't spoil everything. I wouldn't put it past them.
This is super solid in my opinion. A lot more than most games tend to have, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, there is one thing that I forgot that is separate from the original points of what makes a good game, and that is the store and extra content, because every fucking game has a store nowadays. Whether that be a good or bad thing really is game dependent, but for the most part, it's generally cringe microtransactions, right? This game has already shown us a bunch of alternate skins for different characters and have also announced a few 1,000 Year Blood War skins, which is also really nice. So it looks like they're doing a great job on the skins, unlike other Bandai Namco games. You can also buy the usual icons, titles, stickers, nameplates, etc. You can also buy these stat boosting crystals. I doubt these can be used for like online modes, I don't really know. From what like very bare bones content that has been shown to us, even this store seems like pretty decent. Is it like pretty basic like most game stores? Sure, but like there's stuff here. Hopefully this doesn't end up like a Sparking Zero situation where we're all promised all this customization and the only characters that end up with skins are Goku, Gohan and Vegeta, you know?
Yeah, that kind of sucked. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like I was looking for skins for my mains because I was looking for stuff for Trunks, Typhon, Kefla, and there was not a lot. There was not a lot. That they were slacking on the store. They were slacking on the store. In fact, if I'm being real, when it comes to outfits and whatnot, so far based on what I'm seeing, Bleach and looks like Naruto Storm got it. We'll have to see what they add for Bleach, so that's kind of up in the air. But if we're talking about games that are already out, Storm definitely, out of every fighting game I've played so far, got it when it comes to customization, especially. Man, you got Sasuke in a suit, you got Naruto in a suit, you got Hinata in a swimsuit, shit. You got all sorts of shit, bro. All sorts of shit, man. They do it really well, really well. And I'm hoping Bleach does the same.
Ichigo, Renji, and Aizen. But yeah, from what we have to see right now, solid store, 7 out of 10. Of course, this may significantly drop off once we actually get to see the game and see what the microtransactions are like. But just based off this content alone, solid ass store. Now, we've looked at every area of what makes a good game in 2025. We've compared Bleach Rebirth of Souls to its counterparts, and now I am currently doing the math to see whether or not this is even potentially a good game. For gameplay, we rated Bleach Rebirth of Souls an 8 out of 10 for having a basic yet still depth-driven gameplay system with interesting and unique mechanics. A 7 out of 10 for its visual design, for its although slightly generic to very effective art style, clean stage design which comes with destructible environments and smooth animations and special effects. We gave a slightly lower 6 out of 10 for the music in this game because we ain't really heard shit except that one banger. An 8 out of 10 for actually showing out and trying to give the audience some things to actually do with this game outside of online ranked, including 2 different story modes and potentially a type of survival mode. And finally, the store a 7 out of 10 for just being solid. I have done the math with my big brain, which told me to go to calculator.net, which will
That's
actually
crazy.
do the math to calculate the average out of these given scores, and the final score for Bleach Rebirth of Souls is a 7.2 out of 10. So at the very least, it's expected to be a very solid ass game. If my math is correct, which it always is because I know my multiplications like that, this game will live up to everyone's expectations of being the game to save arena fighters, I think. Maybe. But for now,
Once again, 3D fighter, but I'm not even gonna harp on him too much. Honestly, I would agree. In fact, based on what we've seen so far, the game ain't out yet. Based on what I'd see, I'd put the game at a 7.5. 7.5 or 8. That's where I would put it. Based on everything we've seen so far, I put it at a 7.5 or 8. I'm not going to say it's a 10 out of 10. That's just pure glazing. Let's be real. We can't even call it that without the game being out. We have to get our hands on the game beforehand. But I give it a solid 8 based on what we've seen.
Now guys, if you liked the video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. A like goes a long way in the YouTube algorithm and helps me become the biggest Bleach Rebirth of Souls YouTuber out here. And until next time, guys.
Alright, no, that's pretty much it. I'd say that's a pretty solid video. I'll leave him a like. But other than that, I'd say I agree with a lot of his points. He made a really good argument too. So, hey, I got no complaints here. He made some good arguments. He talked about the game. He actually did his research. So, hey, no complaints. No complaints here. I'll leave the link down below to his video. And yeah, without further ado, Shikai Shinobi sign off. Let me know what you guys think about the game, how well it's going to do down in the comments. And also let me know who your favorite character is going to be in the game once you start getting your hands on it, or who your main will be. You already know what I'm about to do. But without further ado, Shikai Shinobi sign off. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.